Welcome back to Idaho Hook and Hunt. Today is part 2 of the Kokobo Spring Kokanee Seminar featuring Alan Greenhow. Just as a reminder, in the comments section I will have links to Kokobo Tackle as well as Idaho Rod and Reel and Mama Hog fishing rods with a discount code for the Mama Hog rods. Part 3 of this series will come out on April the 18th. Enjoy the video and we will see you again next week.
And I want you to take a look at the two slides that I have over here. That upper slide is a early spawn kokanee, and that lower slide is a late spawn kokanee. All right. Well, Deadwood Reservoir was our primary egg take reservoir. I need to back up for early spawn kokanee, but again, that population base was being driven down. They changed the regulations up there. It used to be 25 kokanee, then 15 kokanee. Now it's 6 at Deadwood, 6. So they're trying to help, manage that, protect that a little bit, try to drive that population back up in Deadwood. They've spent a lot of time on Deadwood. The last few years, the biologists have been up to Deadwood trying to determine what is it? What is it that's made the number of kokanee in Deadwood go down? Now, you got to understand something. When I said that the size of the kokanee they said, well, the kokanee size in Deadwood is small, but the population is also small, is reduced. Well, that doesn't add up. Okay? The less fish we have, the bigger the kokanee ought to be. Like Art and I said, those kokanee in Deadwood ought to be 20 inches long. Based on the number of fish that are in there, why aren't they 20 inches long? And that answer still hasn't been determined yet. But it does kind of look like that maybe it is a nutrient situation, somewhat of a nutrient situation going on up there. But I can tell you something else that they're doing. They're monitoring the water temperatures in the Deadwood River that feed into the river, or feed into this reservoir. Now, why am I saying that? Because if these fish are going up into the river and spawning, and the water temperatures are fluctuating, let's say that the water temperature is getting warmer. What that does is that it quickens the incubation of that egg. So what Mother Nature wants it to do is, let's just say it wants to, I'm going to throw a number at you, an 80-day incubation time. Well, let's just say it all of a sudden went to 60 days instead of 80. Well, that little finger, that little fry is now working its way down the river at the wrong time. It could be running into obstacles. It could be running into birds of prey. It could be running into a lot of things that it's not making it to the reservoir. So that's why they're monitoring the water temperatures up in the river to just see, is there a huge fluctuation, and what is that fluctuation if that's the case. Now, call it global warming, call it what you want. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with it or not, but right now nature seems to be showing us that something's going on. And it's going on with this early spawn fish. All right, so this is being, they're observing this, they're studying this. They don't have the answers to everything yet, but I'm telling you right now, they're working on it. And they eventually should figure this out, and I think they will. They've come a long ways in the last few years. They're just trying to, check mark everything that they're looking at. Water studies, we have the nutrient in the water. Okay, and I'll get into a slide about that. So, it's a landlocked sockeye. It's driven by temperature and plankton. When I talk about plankton, this is huge. This is what this fish eats. It eats zooplankton. Okay? Zooplankton is a little shellfish. It's a live organism that swims in the water. It's teeny tiny, almost microscopic in a way. But it has to have something to eat, or it will die. And it eats phytoplankton, which is a plant plankton. It's a plant plankton that grows in the water. A plant plankton needs nutrient. It needs sunlight for it to grow. Well, if we get a nice supply of plant plankton growing in the water because the nutrient of the reservoir or the lake is high enough with nitrogen and phosphorus, then that plant plankton will start to grow. Then the zooplankton will be feeding on it. The zooplankton will expand in numbers, and then the kokanee will be in there eating the zooplankton. But if I don't have any zooplankton in there and my phytoplankton numbers are going down, these kokanee will starve to death and you won't have kokanee. Okay, they just won't increase. So again, they're watching that up in Deadwood to make sure that nutrient level is up in that lake. That could be the reason, don't know yet. But you're going to find this in any reservoir. I don't care if you're from Utah, Nevada, Washington, Oregon, it doesn't matter. This is what has to happen in order for this fish to live. It has to have zooplankton in order for it to eat. Now, they're like a whale. They'll open up their gill rakers, they open up their mouths, and they'll seine through the big clouds of a bait ball. It's a bait ball of zooplankton swimming around eating phytoplankton, and these kokanee will rip up through it, open it up, and they'll pull it, and it'll stick to their gill rakers, and then they digest it from there. So to say that a kokanee is going and picking off the bottom bugs and snails and worms and flies, not the case. Not what they eat. Will they get one in their mouth occasionally? Yeah. There could be, let's just say there's a fly or there's something in that when they rip up, they bring it in. Sure, they got it in them. But typically not. It's typically zooplankton. So if you get a kokanee, which a lot of you have, and you bring it in and he's pooping green out or he's puking green, that green is the phytoplankton that he was ripping up through because he pulled zooplankton in there at the same time. Okay, so that's what that green is the phytoplankton, but he did that because he was ripping up looking for the zooplankton. Okay, kokanee are also, they react, we know this, to vibration, flash, scent, and color. This is a reactionary striking fish. Okay, we want to make this fish mad. This is what we're after. Our job, or the guy that's driving your boat, whoever flips the coin and says, I'm driving, or says he wants to take his boat, he's got a big responsibility. Because if he just is the guy that wants to drive down the center of the reservoir at the same speed and not move his boat, it's going to be a long day. So you may have to whisper in his ear and say, hey, can I drive your boat a minute? Okay, I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. I was on Arrow Rock a couple of weeks ago. I was with a guy in his boat. He was driving the boat, and we were having a horrible time. It wasn't working. And I knew it wasn't going to work, so I was watching how he was driving his boat, but that's his boat. I'm not going to go and say, I want to take over your boat, but eventually I had to, because I was getting frustrated. Can I drive your boat? Yeah, here, drive it. Next thing I know, I got kokanee popping me all over the place. Well, what was I doing different? I'm an erratic driver, I am. My boat's swinging, speeding up and slowing down, and we're out there drunk. Okay, I'm a crazy Ivan out there driving, but guess what I'm doing? I'm pissing them off. Can I say that? Okay, they're behind me and I'm trying to make them mad. And I'm doing that by speeds. I'm fluttering up and fluttering down, and I'm over here and I'm over there, and they're pounding me. Instead of going down the reservoir in a straight line at the same speed, yeah, you may get one or two, but this guy over here's got 30. And it's because this is how he's driving. He's up, he's down, he's all over the place. So you got to think about of how am I driving this boat, or if I go with Chris, how's Chris driving this boat? You know, making sure that we're changing speeds and directions all the time, and it does matter. We can get them to hit. And then again, as I said, there's the difference. Now, I want to bring this up really quick. If I take you up to Arrow Rock right now, or I take you to Anderson right now, and we catch a fish, we won't know if this is a late or an early fish. Primarily, we won't, until we throw it in the cooler, and then I go to reach in the cooler at 2 in the afternoon, and one of the fish that I grabs is nice and firm and hard, and the other one, my fingers go kind of through them. It's soft. That softer fish is a late spawn fish. There is a little bit of difference. I'm not lying to you. We caught enough of them to know that body composition seems to be softer with these late fish versus the earlies. Or when I go and fillet them, and there's my answer. Now, I'm not telling you to take a late fish and throw it away. I don't want you to do, and that's wanton waste. That's illegal. But I'm saying you can take a late fish if you don't like the flavor of it, and you can mix it with an early fish if you like to can fish, and I can disguise that late fish with an early. I can even put trout in there, and you would never know that there was a trout in it or there was a late fish in there, because that early has enough oil and enough flavor that it blends in with that other fish, and I can disguise that. Or some people say they don't really care for, they like the flavor of them. I'm not one that does, because I cut my teeth on earlies. But our folks in northern Idaho, that's all they mostly catch up there. Mostly is lates, and they're fine with it, but that's what they know. We know differently. This is different for us. So I want you to know when you get home, I sent these pictures to the Idaho Fish and Game Department in 2017. These are the pictures that they produced in their article that they came out with. I thought I had a diseased kokanee. I'd never seen a light colored kokanee before, ever. So I didn't know. So now you do know. I want you to know what you're getting into. This is what we have, and I don't want you throwing them away. You can still eat them, but there's a little bit of different flavor in it. Okay, the other tip of this is if you find plankton on your screen, and you're gonna see a slide where you will see plankton, I want you to mark that on your fish finders. If you have a way to go up and make a mark, or you take a visual of the side of the reservoir or the lake, where am I want you to somehow mark that in your mind or on your fish finder, and I want you to get this boat turned around, and I want you to keep working this plankton back and forth. Because this is the food source that they're after. This is where they should be. That's where you need to be. Until you're 100% convinced that they've either left or they're not interested in what you're doing, then you need to go find some that are. And we're going to get into that too. So here we go. Where to find kokanee fast? As I said before, daylight's burning. We're out on the lake. Let's get going. I want you, if you haven't done this, and I've told a lot of you that's been to this seminar before, I want to have a notebook in your boat. All right? If you're out there and you were in such and such cove or such and such inlet or wherever you were, and you were getting fish, what were the conditions that you were fishing in? Why were you getting fish? It was early in the morning. This is what the water temperature was. This is the water clarity. This is where I was at. This is the color I was using. This is the color or the scent that I was using. Mark all that down, because the next time you go out and you say, well, I don't really remember what I was doing, you have a notebook that says what you were doing, and then try to do that again. Because a lot of times it will duplicate itself. Next time you go out, it's the same thing. They're in the same area, they're doing exactly what they did before. And it saves you a ton of time to let you know what you should and shouldn't be doing. All right, they like around that 50, 55 degree water. That's kind of where, when we start getting warmer water temperatures, we're trying to find where is that 50 to 55 degree water. I carry a thermometer, and we attach these to our downrigger balls, and then we drop this down in the water however deep we want to go, and it records what the water temperature is every 5 feet. So I could go clear to 100, bring it back up and toggle through this, and I can read where that temperature is at every 5 feet. This particular manufacturer of this is called a Fish Hawk. They're not making this right now. We don't know why, but there are other thermometers on the market, some that will Bluetooth to your phone. You're going to pay more. I paid like 220 bucks for this. You're going to probably pay a little bit more, but you may want to research and see what thermometers are out there that you could put on your boat, that you could drop down and be able to find where that temperature is at. Now, right now, this is worthless to me right now if I go up and fish our waters. If I'm in your Utah area, I wouldn't be running it because the water temperatures are too cold. I already know that. I'm not going to find 50 to 55 degree water right now, not in our waters. But if I went to Hayden Lake up in northern Idaho, believe it or not, they're catching kokanee at 80 feet. Well, why are they catching fish at 80 feet? Well, because they're getting some warmer water that's coming up from the bottom of the lake, believe it or not. And they're finding that 50 to 50, it's actually that temperature at 80 feet up in Hayden Lake. And that's where these kokanee are hanging out, is in that 50, 55 degree water. So if we get water temperatures around here like we do in the summertime, where all of a sudden our surface temperatures are 70 plus degrees, I don't know where 50 to 55 degree water is. I can look on my fish finder, it's going to give me what my water temperature is on the surface, but it doesn't tell me what the water temperature is down below the surface. And I'm guessing, I'm trying to see where my arches and stuff are, where are these fish hanging out? Well, that's probably where that water temperature is, but I want to know. I'm in a hurry. I got to get this going. I got to get this down there. And so this is a way of finding if that temperature exists. Sometimes it doesn't. Arrow Rock Reservoir 2 years ago, water temperature in the South Fork was 80 degrees on top. 80. There's 70 feet of water in the South Fork. I dropped my thermometer clear to the bottom. The coldest water I could find was 60 degrees. That's it. There wasn't 50 to 55. I guess where I found the kokanee. Right on the bottom. Laying right on the bottom. Because that's the coldest temperature they could find, and they were along in the shade along the cliffs. I would have never believed it in my life, but that's where they had to go. Okay? It's 80 degrees up here. They're not going to live in 80 degree water. So they're trying to say, hey, help me out, nature. I got to find some colder water. So that's something that you can try to do to determine where these fish might be. We're looking for plankton. I told you that right here, and I don't know that this thing, I'm sorry, I pushed the wrong button. Right here, if you see this right here, that's a bait ball. You see this black ball right here? That's on a fish finder, and this is just floating in the water. No rhyme or reason, and you're going to see this all of a sudden show up. And I'm not going to tell you where it's going to be, because it could be on the bottom, it could be in the middle of the reservoir, it could be on top. But that's what you're going to start seeing. And you can start seeing some color density in there where it's a little bit heavier dense with bait. And then what we start seeing, in this case you don't see it as much, but we'll start seeing arches. They're swimming that will start surrounding this bait ball. They'll start seeing arch and arch and arch. In this case, we didn't see many arches around it, but in this case, you can see where these kokanee are swimming. All right? If you have your fish ID on your fish finder is on, you go check it when you get home. I want you to see if your fish finder, if your fish ID is on. How will I know that? It will show a fish. And it'll either have some smaller fish, bigger fish, and then it'll have a little number. Primarily, they'll put a number in there. That'll tell you the depth of what is supposed to be fish. It's not in a lot of cases. It's the downrigger ball. All right? Again, I've got a million stories. We're out there fishing with a guy, fish after fish after fish, bang, 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 bang. And I said, where's your downrigger ball? Well, it's at 30 feet. Well, we're seeing the downrigger ball. The fish finder didn't know that that was his downrigger ball. It's just sending back the signal. It says, I'm sending down a sound wave, it's bouncing back, and it's coming back, but the fish were all the same size, and it was all at the same level, and he thought he was in fish. Not even close. All right? He's bouncing it off his downrigger ball. But if you turn fish ID off, and now what we're seeing are pencil check marks, so it's a swimming fish that's going through the water. That sound wave is pinging off of a swimming fish, and it's bringing back the return signal, and it's not showing a fish now, it's showing an arching fish. And then what will happen with your downrigger ball, it'll just be a faint black line across the screen, as you see right here. See that? That's a downrigger ball. We've got several downrigger balls. There's another one right here. But there's a swimming fish all through here, but that's a downrigger ball. So all I did is just separate it. I don't want to see fish, and you hear you can turn the audio on. It's beep, 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 beep. That's ridiculous. No, turn it off. It's a swimming fish. That's what we're looking for. And then you know exactly where these fish are hanging out at. Okay. Last thing is, I always say this, I truly believe in this. Nature can tell me where these fish are a lot of times. All right, do I have an osprey? Do I have an eagle out there flying? They're flying into the water, they're pulling up, and they bring up a kokanee in their talons. Well, they're better fishermen than I am. They know where these fish are. They're telling me that these fish are on the surface primarily. They're over in this cove. Well, I'm going to go over and disrupt their breakfast. All right, I'm going to turn this boat around. I'm going to head over to where they are, and I know these fish are elevated. Well, I'm going to start fishing the surface, and I'm going to get into where these eagles were at, or these osprey. And you'll see them up here in our bodies of water around here, where there are fish there are birds of prey that will swoop in. They'll come right in on your boat. So watch the birds of prey, because it will help you some. Okay. The last thing is, and I bring this tip up, is we want to target the level of the fish or above the fish. I don't like to go below them. When I say fish above them, I'll go 10 feet above them. I will. And I can get them to hit me 10 feet above them, because they're swimming, they're going up, they're down. They just don't swim in a straight line. They don't. But I don't like fishing below them, because I don't want them shooting down on my tackle. I want them shooting up. The way that they would seine, or the way that they would look up to try to, seine for plankton. Will I get them to hit me down? Occasionally we'll get them to drive down on us, but not often. It's more up. So if you can determine where they are in the level, you want to fish right in them or above them. I would rather fish above them a little bit, at least 10 feet. It does not hurt you, folks. It doesn't. They'll fly up and smack it, because they're all over the place. So just determine where you think they are, and then don't fish below them. All right. This is some go-to stuff that I'm doing around here. I'm just trying to give you some ideas. I don't want to be this gospel. I want you going back and saying, this is the only thing I can do because Alan said this is what I got to do. This is what Alan does. And you can make up your own mind of how you want to do it, but I'm giving you a starting point. I match colors of the water clarity and the depth of fish. If the water clarity is dirty, which we get dirty water on some heavy snowpack years, it starts to melt, that water turns brown, well, then I've got to run some darker colors. It's no different than the bass guys that are out there. They're throwing darker colored worms and what have yous in the water to try to get bass to hit when it's a darker condition. We're no different. So we're running blacks and blues and coppers, darker stuff to go after fish in clarity that's not great. Or I'm going deep in the water. If I'm going 50, 60, 70 feet down where the water or the light isn't as intense, we go darker colors. If I got clouds that are moving in, a storm is moving in, I'm running darker colors. But then things change throughout the morning. What I started with at 6:30 in the morning, it may stop working at 7:30 or 8 o'clock because the sun is coming up, we're getting more light, and then all of a sudden those darker colors start to fade off, and then we'll bring in some more of the fruitier colors, pinks and whites and chartreuses and white or silvers. Stuff that's more fruitier, more flashy. Water temperature or water clarity is clear. We're fishing the surface. We're running stuff that's more flashy, more pinks and whites and chartreuse and silvers versus darker stuff. So I want you to make sure that you're trying to match that as much as you can. Okay? If you have confidence in your tackle, I don't care whose tackle it is. I don't. All I want to ask you is when you get your hands on whoever's tackle that you bought, do you know how fast you can run it? Do you know what it weighs? Do you know what you can and can't do with that? Because if you don't, it's going to be a long day. Okay? So my suggestion is you take that tackle and you drop it off to the side of your boat, and you travel at about 1.2, 1.3 miles an hour to start with, and drop it off to the side of your boat and watch the action of that tackle. What is it doing? Does it stay up on top or does it drop? Is it way enough that it goes under the surface, or is it so light that it wants to ski up on top? You need to see that. You need to see when does it start rolling over? When does that dodger start to spin? This dodger is designed to walk back and forth in the water. As you're trolling, it walks back and forth. Well, if it starts to spin in the water, you're going too fast. It's whipping so hard it starts to roll over. So you need to know that. At what point does it start to roll over? All right? You need to understand and fish with confidence. And if you start fishing with confidence, you will have a better day. You're going to be able to catch more fish than not. So just get to understand what you're running. Do the blades turn? Do they stop? What are they doing? So that you know. Again, I have a little secret: dark on dark and light on light. All right, I'm going to be kind of a smart aleck here, but I get this all the time. Well, this gentleman looks at me and he goes, he's out on the boat with me, and he said, well, that'll never work. You ever heard that before? That'll never work. You know what my answer to him is? I'm not catching you. Right? I'm not. I'm going to make stuff up, and we never know if they're going to like it or if they're not. Okay? So I want you to erase this out of your brain that color combination will never work. You will never know until you try, because we're not catching you. You have nothing to do with it. I mean, okay, that boat driver's got more responsibility than anybody. So that color combination may be what they're looking for. So make stuff up. You may have a black and white Dodger on and may have something pink behind it that makes no sense or something stupid, and they like it. Okay. You don't tell this fish what they're going to hit. Erase that in the other stuff in your brain. You don't tell it. You ask them. It's that simple. Do you like this color? Do you like this speed? Do you like this leader length? Do you like this scent of corn? What is it that you like? versus going out there with 2 different scents of corn, 2 different colors, leader lengths that are way long, and you're going out there and saying, you're going to hit this. No, we're not. No, we're not. And I don't have enough stuff in my boat to say, well, they don't like this. I don't have any other selections. Well, you didn't ask them. You're basically telling them. And they're not going to play with you. I'll guarantee you, unless you roll the dice, and you should be heading to Jackpot or Las Vegas. Because there are going to be days out there you're going to keep digging and digging and digging, and then there it is. Or you're going to be changing speeds. Or you're going to be changing leader lengths. There it is. I don't want you changing everything at once, but you're going to start changing things a little at a time. The thing about it is this, folks, the easiest thing to change is speed. I don't have to bring anything in. I can throw everything out there, and I can just sit there and change my speed. Is it a speed issue? It could be. There's a gentleman asked me this morning, it was, what's the most important thing that you watch when you go kokanee fishing? For me, it's speed. I'm watching speed all the time. Because I want to know that I'm not going too slow and I'm not going too fast. I'm going to start moving my speeds around, up and down. I might start at 1, 2, 1, 3 mile an hour, and I'm just changing my increments a little bit, and boom, they hit me at 1.5. All right, we're going to start again at 1.2. We're going to go along, boom, they hit me at 1.5 again. Okay? So I want to know, what is it that's making this fish tick? Is my leader lengths too long? I mean, maybe I need to start changing some colors. Maybe I do, but the easiest thing to do is just change speed. And then you're going to have an idea. And it may not be a speed issue. It could be one of the other things out there, but we'll get to it. But our goal is to try to figure out what they want today, and then once we find what they want today, then we can light them up. But your challenge is just to find out what makes them tick. All right, here's some colors that I run in the local waters around here. Again, this is a starting point just to think about. But Anderson Ranch, for me, I built a lot of tackle out there using purple. It's just been always something that I use early in the morning is a lot of purple. Mix it up with purple and pinks, or purple and silvers, or purples and oranges. But as long as there's a little purple in there, orange is always orange and purple is a good one. Arrow Rock. I don't know about you, but I've had such good luck over 30 plus years of fishing Arrow Rock with black. And again, I get this all the time, well, kokanee don't hit black. You're kidding me. Yeah, they do. They hit black all day long if they're on black that day. They smack black. Is black UV? No. Do I have to have UV to catch fish? No. Do we have a little black light that we run around with, and we put it on our tackle and we make sure that it glows like a velvet Elvis? And this is the reason they're hitting it? Yeah, we do. Is this the reason they're hitting it? I don't think so. It's a selling point, in my opinion. Okay? We've never talked to a kokanee, folks. We've never talked to one. We don't know what colors they see. And if you get anybody out there that tells you that they know exactly what they see, they're feeding you full of, you know what. Hey, we've never talked to one. We don't know. I can send Chris down in the water at 30 feet and say, I'm going to put red down there, and tell me if you still see red at 30 feet, Chris. Chris can come back and say, yeah, this is the color that I've seen, because he's in scuba gear, he's watching what I'm doing, but we don't have a way to communicate that with a fish, do we? Nope. We just know that certain colors work in certain conditions. We know kind of where they are throughout the year because we've been paying attention. So one thing I can tell you is this: you better have something pink in your tackle box. Something pink. Now, does pink work all the time? No. But somewhere throughout the day, pink will show up. More than likely. Okay, so what I'm saying is you better have something pink. One thing that I really ask the audience is that I've talked to over the years. I want you to take your tackle when you go home. And if your wife lets you do this, put your tackle out on the kitchen table or whatever. And I want you to separate what you have in dark and what you have in light. Let's see the balance that you have. Do I have enough dark colors for darker conditions? Do I have enough lighter colors for lighter conditions? Where am I? Am I in balance? Because if you're not, and let's say you have way too many light colors and not enough dark, then it kind of lets you know where you need to start going to try to bring this into balance. Because as you know, we always are having changes in weather patterns throughout the day, and it will mean it was good now and it's no longer good. So I've got to start moving colors, or I got to start doing some things to try to stay up with them. I always say it's chess match. They make a move, I make a move. I make a move, they make a move. We're after each other all day long. And that's the challenge, and that's what's fun, is to just try to see if you can outsmart these fish. Okay, so go home, let's lay your stuff out and make sure you have a balance. All right, I get asked this question a lot. Well, do they like hoochies over squids, over bugs, bigger blades, smaller blades? What is it? Again, I don't know. I'm not out there this morning. I know what maybe they did yesterday, I don't know what they did the day before. I can't tell you what they're doing right now. I'm not out there. My suggestion is you have enough stuff in your arsenal, throw out a hoochie. Well, they may not want the hoochie today. They may want a bigger spinner blade. Typically early in the spring, bigger thump in the water, a bigger blade on your spinners is sometimes what they're after, a little more thump. But when we get into later in the summer, we're going into, May, June, July, we're moving into their, when they're feeding heavily, because it's an early spawn kokanee. Let's say that kokanee is going to spawn in August. It's feeding heavily. We can get more aggressive with them. With a hoochie that's fluttering with a short leader, pick our speeds up. That thing's fluttering like nobody's business. All we're doing is making a map. And we can get away with that. Right now, maybe not, because the water is really cold. They're a little more lethargic, and they're not so much interested in that really flipping hard kind of stuff. They're going, whoa, wait a minute, this is too much for me. I'm out of here. I need a little longer leader length. I can slow down with a bigger blade, and now I can get them. But that will change as we get moving toward their spawning time. All right, are they schooled together right now? No, not much. They will. As we move in through the summer, then we're going to start seeing more clouds of them come together, and they'll start schooling. So as we move closer to their spawning time. So an early spawn kokanee, or your Utah kokanee are early spawners, I know they are, you're going to start seeing them really start schooling up around June and into the first part of July, and by the time we get to the end of the July, a lot of them are starting ready to go. I've seen kokanee turn red in June, believe it or not, in June. So Mother Nature can throw some curveballs at you. Don't be surprised when you see stuff like that, because that's just what happens. But think about leader lengths right now can be a little longer. It's a little colder. Water temperatures, again, we're seeing surface water temperatures up at Paya Lake and McCall. There's still ice up there on the north end, or there was a week ago. We're looking at 36, 38 degrees. Is it great fishing up there right now? No, but it will be when we get into the 40-degree temperatures. It's coming, but that super, super cold water up there, I will tell you right now, they don't like it. They don't hit in it, not much. We're getting some coho up there, but not much kokanee happening on Payette right now. But I think we will get there when we get our water temperatures up into the 40s. Around here, we're seeing right around that 40 degrees. Is that about where you were at? 42 degrees, yep, Chris was just up there. So yeah, we're seeing the 40s, and fishing starting to really pick up at Anderson, Narrow Rock, and Lucky, because the water temperature's starting to climb. Okay, so again, I picked out some colors just based on what our experiences have been for what we kind of like to run. And this is not gospel. This is just some things that seem to get us going. But I want you to keep changing. If this stuff doesn't work, you're going to keep looking until you figure it out.